Okay, the video started. My name is Al Benson. I'm an Emergency Preparedness Commissioner and also a founding member of the Amateur Radio Association here in Hermosa Beach, along with Ken Hartley. He is here, and basically we came up to here to our Emergency Operations Center, and we're attempting to evaluate whether we can get what condition our ham radios are in, and whether there any work needs to bring them up to functioning. So this is the front door of the Emergency Operations Center in Hermosa Beach. This room is an old home economics room from a school in the 1930s. So on the front door here, you see the exit sign. I'll go up and show the date and time. There we go. You can kind of see it right there. It's 12:36. And it has a date of 1/13, so today is January 13th, Sunday. So you can see that. And anyway, I shot a video here very similar to this. This is part 2. In the part 1 video, 90 days ago, I shot the video up here, and we're basically going to be going over the same things. So Ken Hartley is here, and I'm going to be asking him some questions. He's the founder of the Hermosa Beach Amateur Radio Association, also the major force in leading the building of our Emergency Operations Center, which is right here. This is a converted home economics room. And I'm going to be asking Ken some questions. Anyway, one question, Ken, before we get to the amateur radios is, you're standing next to a server, and this server provides internet and fiber optic connections to the Emergency Operations Center. I see that this server rack, as you can see right there, is black, and inside of it is different connections for internet connections. And you can see on the top there is it looks to be a backup power supply, and then these 3 units right here are FiOS TV units. So they provide fiber to this location, and this is how you can tune in it at your home and watch TV. And we also have 3 of these, so we can watch 3 different channels, news channels, or when an emergency is happening. And these units feed these high-definition televisions, and they're on the wall. So when Emergency Operations Center is up and happening, and we need to keep abreast of what's happening with the worldwide and local news, we can watch 3 different channels at once. And by the way, the Emergency Operations Center has a backup power supply. And Ken, can you leave that open? So here's the server. What we can see, there's different cabling for internet and fiber and backup and that kind of thing. So these, Ken, isn't it true that all of this is connected to a backup diesel generator?
25 kilowatt, which is the maximum that we could go without requiring additional permitting from.
Okay, with 25 kilowatt diesel generator, which the city, once Ken started the leadership to rebuild this, and our previous city manager, Steve Burrell, was confident enough that we could complete the project, he okayed a $25,000 diesel generator, which is kilowatt. And $25,000 also, but kilowatt power. And then it was installed, and it, supposedly is still working, and it will power up this area. You can't have everything powered up, but it will power, obviously, the internet, the ham radios, and everything is, and it can function as an emergency operations center when the power is completely shut down in an emergency. And another thing is, you can see this server rack right here. Previously, Ken and I went to a certain location, and we picked up a server rack, and I helped them bring it up here. When we picked it up at a location and brought it here, it was being somebody did not want it, a company, and that server rack mounting things were right here. So this is about 6 feet off the ground, and this server rack was mounted to the wall, so the server rack did not fall over in an earthquake. That server rack is now gone now. It's fully functional server rack, nothing wrong with it. Anyway.
There are some advantages to this rack in that it's fully enclosed. However, the way it was wired, you can't lock the back of it. But, it should have been bolted to the wall because the city paid someone to install this. This has been here for some time, but nothing's been done about it.
Yeah. So basically, it's pretty heavy and sturdy, and you wouldn't think that the whole thing could fall over. But in an earthquake, it's tippy. I mean, all this stuff would slip.
This is a computer here.
All this would slip off. Oh, this is a computer. Yeah. I thought it was a power supply. This, all that stuff would slip off quite easily in an earthquake. And of course, the entire unit could just tip over, depending on the severity of the earthquake. Next thing we'll get to is we have some furniture here. As you can see, it's brown wood furniture. It's kind of looks nice and everything. It is. It looks like wood, but what it is, as here we have there's just a plastic sheet covering this wood here, and what the wood is particle board. So I am zooming in to a hole in this, and you can kind of see the little particles there. Basically, that's kind of made from sawdust and wood particles and glue, and it's called particle board. And you get, a serviceable kind of office desk workstation unit here. Nothing particularly wrong with it. And there's usually like wood pegs or some means of connecting these two different boards right here. This board to that board. And then we here have another unit right here where there's a bookcase on top. Just as a really quick example, we did check to see if this was bolted to the wall. It's not bolted for earthquake security. But anyway, so here's what's happening with these workstation units. Previously, and I'm going to be able to show you with a link, Ken had taken pictures of what was here previously, and these were office cubicles made by Steelcase, and that company makes very heavy-duty office cubicles, and these cubicles were installed here. Ken and called me, and he rented a trailer, and we went to an office in El Segundo, and we loaded up all the equipment with hired workers and all that kind of stuff. These Steelcase office cubicles, they were brought here, and Ken paid to have somebody install them, assemble them, and whatever. But the unique thing about these Steelcase units, which were right here, and then back there where you see that, there were workstations. Each one of them was extremely heavy duty. And the Steelcase company, along with other companies like Henry Miller, who makes cubicles, they're earthquake certified. And what that means is they're a little bit taller here, and the panels were extremely much heavier. So the taller, about 5 feet tall, that type of thing. And they're earthquake rated. So in an earthquake, and they have documentation on this, these panels and cubicle did not fall apart, and they're rated for earthquakes. And also the equipment that you see here, there's ways of attaching and making sure that the equipment, these are radios, by the way, would not slip and fall off and everything would go on the floor. By the way that these are connected right here, in an earthquake, the entire thing can collapse and fall down depending on the severity of the earthquake. This bookshelf that's right here can fall forward. These bookshelves here are not connected in any manner to the wall. It's a little hard to see there, the gap. No connections to the wall here. So this entire thing, it looks like it's pretty sturdy, but it can tip over and fall. And basically what you can have is where the radios are, by the way, we're looking over here at ham radios. These radios can be non-functional because the furniture can fall, they can be broken, and that type of thing. So anyway, getting to the next story. Why was the Steelcase cubicles removed? We're not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, they were removed, and this furniture that you see here came from the Hermosa Beach Fire Department, and the LA County took over, and this furniture was no longer needed. The Steelcase cubicles, which were workstations and rated for California earthquake standards, were removed, and these were put in their place. So that's what we have here. And Ken, a couple quick questions. I'm shooting right now. These are ham radios, correct?
Yes.
And how many are we looking at right there?
There's 3 right there and one on the other.
Okay, one over there. Sure. So that's a ham radio. Yes. This is a ham radio, and that's a ham radio. At this moment,
Power supply.
Oh, okay. And then we have a little power supply here, and then there's a little weather station.
Weather station that I guess nobody's changed the battery upstairs, and I did make an attempt to go up there today, and whenever they did the new roof, they locked or just wooded over the access to the roof, so you can no longer get to the roof to service antennas or to change batteries in the weather station. Okay,
so if there's ever, and by the way, these ham radios antennas here, they don't, their own the antenna is on the roof, and they're intended to be connected by cable. So if there's ever damage to the antennas or the cables on the roof, it's going to be more involved to get up there and fix it, particularly if they fall on an earthquake or something. Right. So my next question, Ken, is to your knowledge, have you ever checked to see if these are powered up or connected by an antenna in any way?
Well, what Brandy said to me when she put the furniture in was that she just moved everything over here, disconnected what they had to, but I'm pretty confident that they're not plugged in. So
right. And actually, I'm going to I'll go over and offer some proof to that. So as I remember it, Ken, and as you understand it, those radios you're looking at here were actually over here in the corner. So there's where the radios are that are disconnected, and this corner is where they were connected.
Correct.
And one of the proofs of that is not that difficult. Is in my previous video, I came down here, and these are the black conduit cables that are the antenna. And these conduit cables, Ken, don't they go to the roof where the antennas are?
Correct.
Okay, and this is where you can see they're long enough where the radios would sit up here at a workstation, and that would be that Steelcase workstation. They could be up here right now, connected and powered up by power.
Right.
So
there was a lot of thought in the original design process as to where things would be located, and the reason that the amateur radio was put in the corner was because of the direct access to a window. If everything had come down and there was no serviceable antenna on the roof, we could go right out the window and drop something down to the tennis courts and
right. So directly out this window, you could just with a hammer in an emergency run a cable down from the antenna, just come in through the window. And your emergency situation.
So now if we had to go out through the window, it would have to come from over here, which is going to give us a little bit of a distance to cover. But then you can't run it directly this way because then you're blocking the walkway from here, so you'd have to go across the wall.
Yeah. And theoretically, if we wanted to hook up these radios over here, it is doable. I mean, you could get extensions to these cables.
You get extensions, you'll have signal loss.
You'll lose some signal. But anyway, the extensions would go from here, that down there, they would run over here to the radios. And of course, these radios can be plugged in. Of course, we're not sure if they're fully working or operational, but one way or another, they could be checked and they could be probably brought up.
They're just not powered.
Yeah, they function, but they're just not powered. So, power can be brought to them and the antenna can be brought to them. But at this time, it appears to me, and you would say they're not functioning, right? If we needed to use them now.
Right now, no.
There's no.
And we would have to, the radios were hooked up to the antennas, and there were specific antennas for specific radios.
Right.
So if you hook up the wrong one to the wrong one, you could potentially blow the radio up.
Right.
So you have to be careful, so we'll have to go and test them again. It looks like
there's two cables right there.
Yeah, it looks like there's some tape on the end of it, which we marked up.
Right. And then just to throw in here, this is these are the radios that are disconnected that we're talking about, 3 ham radios. This is an additional ham radio. This big thing's a power supply, and then this thing underneath is a radio, right?
That's a 220. That's for connecting basically the other cities around us would use that band. Right.
And then, to your knowledge, is this plugged into power or antenna? So these are not plugged into power and antenna. And again, they could probably, like anything with time and money, they could probably be brought up to where they were reconnected now. So, but in an emergency, let's say I come up here and we're here right now we're here on a Sunday, an emergency happens now, but you and your wife are on vacation somewhere, there's no city employees, and I come up here. I'm not really an electrician. I could try to fiddle around with this stuff and get it up and running, but I'm not fully confident that I could. Because like you said, I'm not sure what cables go into what radio.
Right. Yeah, you would need, at this point, you would basically need if you can't tell from the markings on the cords that we put on there, you would need an antenna analyzer.
Right. And I'm not qualified to do it. I mean, obviously I can plug something in the wall and try. Yeah. And then I do have a ham radio. Is it the operator's license or what? Mine's not the top level one. Do you remember that?
It's, you have a technician's license.
I have a technician's license and you have a full operator's license?
No, I have a tech license also.
Oh, okay. And then what is can you hold this open again? What's the equipment we have in here? So this is what here?
These are scanners.
Okay. So police scanners, obviously very handy to be used in an emergency. And then you know what that's a scanner too?
Yes.
Okay. And then this is just like odds and ends and cabling and that kind of stuff. And looks like 2 hard drives here. Mm-hmm. So, okay, looks like a laptop computer. And then could you open up the other one? What could you describe those radios?
This is actually an old radio from Hermosa Beach that we don't use, but
and
at some point maybe this is
connected
to the Historical Society.
Is that a signal analyzer or also a radio?
This is the actual radio. I believe this is just the power supply.
Entire unit's radio, okay. Okay, go ahead. And this is
another ham radio. It's another ham radio.
Okay, not hooked up, but could possibly be hooked up.
And this is another one.
Used as a backup or something like that. So now here
backup HF radio.
Right. Now here's one of my concerns is this does have a lock on it, right? But this door that I'm lifting up right here. But the way that it's configured now, or Ken, can you lift up the other one? In an earthquake, what would you suspect would happen if these things are down in this fashion? Yeah, all these would come out and pretty much just fly out in an earthquake. And in the Steelcase case, the locking of the doors was like an automatic. You actually had to push a latch and then it opened, so it was a little bit better configured to protect for an earthquake. And also there are ways and manners of tying down this equipment in a Steelcase unit to make sure that it didn't slip off the floor. So slip off the desktop. Anyway, so Ken, I was going to move on here to the, so these are basically the main units of the Steelcase things that were here, which are replaced by other furniture from
the other thing that was advantageous with the cubicles was that the sound deadening properties.
Right.
This room will tend to get very noisy during a disaster.
Right.
And the cubicles had a material on them that were used for sound deadening.
Right.
They were rated for that. And then they also had electricity that ran around the perimeter at the bottom.
Oh, right, on the floor.
Here, you could actually pin things to the wall so that people who were sitting here would be able to see it, but they could also plug in electrical things.
Sure. Well, the other problem too is, let's say when all power's down, all of these lights cannot be left on because I don't think the generator can power radios and stuff, but maybe not neon.
It depends. It would have to be tested because a lot of things have been added. To this.
So quite easily you could have lower light levels in here, and in here, which I haven't seen previously, they're running cables across the floor. These appear to be internet cables, right? It looks like, or I don't know if it's internet or phone.
Those are Ethernet and probably also phone.
Yeah. Okay, but you can see
VoIP setup.
they are taped down to a degree, but kind of a trip and fall hazard. And then here's a definite trip and fall hazard. These appear to be, there are phones here you can see on the table here, and phone lines here, so we have more trip and fall hazards here. And you can see this table is another table. Can you check, Ken, on, I see that there's power on some of these phones. Could you check to see if we have dial tone?
In use, no line.
Oh, it says in use, no line here. You can
speakerphone, but there's no
right.
No
you can
dial
see
tone.
here. So, and you can see that
no dial tone.
no dial tone. This phone is powered.
It is powered, yeah.
Yeah, but there's no. You can hear there's no dial tone. And let's see if that laptop does that have any power to juice to it.
This one does not.
Theoretically, it could be it's battery powering it, but it's not connected to cable. But it has a battery on it, and it does not power up.
Right. So the battery would be internal to this. I don't think it would be.
And then when you hit power, right now, it's non-operative. All right, and then I'm going to walk around here, Ken. So just another thing, anytime you have a file cabinet of this thing, you can kind of see here that the way that this shakes, this
should be bolted to the wall.
Yeah, this should be bolted to the wall. It's pretty heavy and sturdy. You wouldn't think it could fall, but
this room had all brand new walls. It was furred out, so we could run all new electrical lines, all cabling behind the walls. Since then, they've done a lot of surface mount things, which it's a little bit cheaper, so they took that route to do it. You know, hitting the wall here, it just needs painted, whatever. One thing that I believe when we initially did this is an access panel for the electric.
Okay.
And I think that has to be accessible.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you can't get to it now because there's furniture in front of it.
Yeah. So either one of these systems, this is actually a separate unit here, and you would think, oh, that's a pretty heavy unit, it's not going to fall. But in an earthquake, it'd be surprising with the type of things that can tumble over. And so anyway, there was the concern we're talking about here is the Steelcase workstations. Again, they were higher walls, and when people are on the radios, let's say where the radios are here or here, when ham operations is taking place, there's typically a operator who's operating the radio, talking, conversing, and then next to him there's somebody
transcriber.
And that person's a transcriber, and they're writing down the conversations of who's talking to, what channel,
and what's going out.
Right.
And the transcriber's job is nothing but transcription. They have to get the words exactly the way they were meant to be sent out and exactly the way that they come in.
Right.
Because that message is going to go to someone in an EOC, and it might be a chief or somebody that's going to make a decision on something. And if you have one word that's incorrect, it could have a totally different meaning as to what's coming in. So it's an important
Sure,
job to
sure.
be done.
And then the way it was set up, it was a
So the way it was set up-
acoustically.
The way it was set up, it was with the cubicles, it was sound deadening. We still thought we would probably have some noise and we needed to get some headphones.
Right.
For that. We had not gotten those yet. They're fairly expensive. We
Right.
got some from the Hermosa Fire Department that were
Right.
older, and we made some adapters to make them work, but they weren't great because they were so old.
Right.
So there used to be 2 stations over here for amateur radio that would allow for 4 people, 2
Right.
different frequencies or 2 bands, and 2 transcribers.
Right.
Now we have room for 1 frequency broadcast. We could put someone to do transcription on this side here.
Right, yeah. But obviously, the previous, again, I'm going to be showing pictures which Ken has taken previously of the previous Steelcase units. The walls were a good bit higher, fabric, and totally acoustically.
Probably 5 feet.
Yeah, more like 5 feet and whatever. And then, the thought was that when Ken selected these, that they did have a earthquake rating and they're heavy duty units and whatever. So that's what they're used for in their specific condition. That does not mean, this can still be used as an office, right? Steelcase, that's the original use of these cubicles is for office use. So anyway, a little quick question about amateur radio. So I have a technician's license. Let's say other people come up here and let's say all the ham radios are connected. They are able to turn them on. To your knowledge, Ken, let's say they get on the radio and they start saying, help, or I mean, is there a fashion where somebody who has no ham radio experience whatsoever of them ever being able to communicate, get that radio up and running?
They would not be in this room.
Right.
Even if everything was functioning normal, there would have to be someone that's trained and knows how to work. And
Right.
The ICS courses, the minimum ICS.
Right.
courses
And
required.
if somebody does, let's say right now, somebody was to turn these radio on and they didn't have the ham radio operator's license, that would be illegal?
In the event of a disaster, those rules go out the
Okay.
window. However, you wouldn't want someone that's not trained working on it because they're not going to be helpful.
Sure.
So it has
right.
to be somebody.
And it's quite,
that's-
and then if, and another thing that Ken did is he set up a training class for our Valley School, which I shot the video of. So if you want to know how difficult and complicated, which I took the course and passed the course, it's extremely complicated using these radios. It's not just something, it's like right now I'm shooting on an iPhone. If I handed an iPhone to somebody from 40 years ago or whatever, and they didn't give them no explanation, they had no idea of technology, using this iPhone as a phone is almost impossible.
See, amateur radios were around 40 years ago.
Yeah. So, but anyway, in order to get an amateur radio up and running, first you have to have a license, but then you have to know how to use it.
Right.
No different than this iPhone.
Yeah, and it's like anything else, tinker with it. I
Yeah.
don't think it's quite as difficult as you say for a technician license. The further you go, because there's 3 stages of licenses, you go.
Well, I mean, one thing I'm doing is, I mean, how do you get to the correct channel or a channel that will work and that kind of stuff?
Varies from radio to radio. It's like, you get into a
Yeah.
new car these days, and so I got into a friend's new car, and I had difficulty finding out how to
Right.
put it in gear.
Right. No, I noticed that when you came in here, you had your portable ham. I guess you're not wearing this thing. Okay, can you go grab it?
Yeah.
So what would you say as you go grab it? Let's say you're not connected to anything else. How far does that portable, there it is. How far, this portal, Ken's picking it up right here. And then how far, let's say, realistically, that you're communicating from one little radio like that to another in the city? Is that a couple
These are
mile?
Line of sight.
Line of sight?
Basically,
Okay.
on this handheld radio. However, we own a repeater that's up on the hill in PA.
Right.
So with a half a watt, I can hit that repeater and cover many miles around us.
Okay, so just to clarify, let's say if we didn't have the repeater, you could communicate pretty much around Hermosa with that, no problem. But, and then let's say without the repeater.
As an example, I can talk to the repeater with full power from up near Six Flags.
Okay,
So there's the kind of distance that you can get with just the radio, because
yeah.
I'm hitting the repeater with just the radio.
right, and then the repeater gives you coverage.
In this area.
Yeah.
Boosts the signal.
Yeah, boost the signal. So just let's say the repeater didn't exist. When you go to Palos Verdes, on the other side of the hill, it is dark when it comes to FM radio. So if you drive around there, your FM radio goes off, right? Because there's no signals can get around that hill as you drive around, right?
Right.
So the ham radio.
You could potentially hit a repeater out on Catalina and get back.
Yeah. But I mean, just if people are driven around on that side of Palos Verdes, the FM goes off, that's a line of sight signal. This thing would not work. But with the repeater, it does work. And then the repeater, doesn't that open you up to the entire country? You can.
No.
Well, I mean, you
yes
can,
and no.
yeah, okay.
So it starts to get involved with the internet, and you can hook these repeaters up to internet.
Right.
They don't. The old timers don't really consider that amateur radio. 'Cause
Okay.
in the event of a disaster, the internet's going to go down in some sections, and your
Right.
signal may not go through.
All right. So, well, let's say, what would be the coverage? Let's say you pick us.
However,
Okay.
This radio here.
Okay.
This is an HF rig.
Okay.
And when it's hooked up to its antenna up on the roof, I believe we've spoke to some foreign countries. I don't remember which. I have a log of them somewhere. But I know we've spoke to people in Florida.
Okay.
And this is direct. So
Oh,
this
direct.
is not going through a repeater.
Okay, just from the antenna on the roof.
Correct.
So, I mean, could that talk to Washington, D.C.
Yes.
possibly? Okay.
Yes.
FEMA or whoever possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the reason the little handhelds are great for your belt and walking around. But the reason these radios are higher powered, connected to a big antenna, well, not connected at this moment, but when they are connected, they're much more versatile.
This device here we purchased, if you think of the old style modems that you used to have at your home, it's similar to that. However, it's over the air.
Okay.
So the thought process behind that is that when you hook up the radio to this, if we had a major event where all the communications are down and we needed to get emails or text messages out, you could get on the internet in another state through this radio
Okay.
and this device.
Right.
Get messages out.
It would be slower.
Pictures are
Right.
going to be out because it eats up too much
Yeah.
bandwidth.
But messages.
You get a lot of messages out.
Okay, good. So various things, and that's the reason these radios do not look that particularly big, but they're powerful with their power supply, right?
I believe this radio was about this particular one was about $1,700.
Okay, but I mean they're made much more powerful by the power supply. So these can direct through our antenna on the top of the EOC in the community center, direct or pretty much communicate nationwide to a degree. So okay, well that's the reason we have them. And well, by the way, Manhattan Beach has a very strong amateur radio association. Torrance does, Palos Verdes, and they're all connected to working with police and fire and emergency preparedness because it's quite possible in an emergency. I'm holding this iPhone. As I understand it, the cell phone frequencies, a decent percentage is given over to police and fire. And another problem is, in an emergency, everybody's going to jump on the cell phone system. So,
and then you're only going to have a couple hours to begin with because the cell tower repeaters are going to run out of battery power.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So what we've got here, and the reason that other cities are so envious of ham radio operations and use them for emergencies is these particular radios, when connected to a power supply and power, and connected to our antenna, can communicate across the country, and they've got that power to do it. And by the way, Ken, just to reaffirm, well, there's no power. How are these things powered by? Where's the juice coming from? Assuming
So it comes from this power supply and the generator. However, in the back we have 2 car batteries that are charged.
Right.
So we can bring those out and hook those up to this power
Right,
supply
right,
and get juice off of those.
And then the generator you talked about, we spoke of before, the city paid for a $25,000 diesel generator, which theoretically it tests itself once a month and is fueled up and that kind of stuff.
It's a week, I believe.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we have here, and that's the reasons for the importance of these radios. Is when everything else is shut down, these radios can continue to
These
operate.
are the last resort.
Yeah.
So this is
When
not
everything else-
if you have an event that the EOC is activated, that doesn't mean that the amateur radio is going to get activated because if communications are still working.
Right.
If you remember back when the fish died in Redondo,
Yeah.
they activated their EOC because there were so many that were dying, but that doesn't mean that they need an amateur radio because as long as the
Right.
communications are working,
Sure.
this is not needed.
Right. No.
It's only a last resort when everything
Last
else
rate, yeah.
fails.
Last resort, and when power goes out, and that can happen. You can have fairly major emergencies, and you don't need a lot of buildings destroyed. Okay, we're going to move over here really quick, try to wrap up this video. Over here, we have our small kitchen. We can microwave sandwiches, and we have a refrigerator. We have a coffee machine, and whatever. And then right here, we're gonna just kind of, if you can pull that back, we'll move it back when we're done again. This is a location where you see this black file cabinet. Yeah, if you can move that slightly, we'll put it back to where it was. But anyway, you see Ken's dealing with some trip and fall hazards just below him, so don't fall over, Ken.
So this used to be 2 cubicle stations. There were
Right.
2 stations essentially for police and fire.
Right.
Needed one more for public works.
Right.
But essentially, these were going to be quasi-dispatch locations.
Right.
If comms went down with our communications facility,
Right.
RCC, I believe, the Regional Communications Center, then this could have been used as for transmitting information out. So the stations are gone. So now for somebody that's going to work here, you're going to have there's 3 radios here. So
in essence, these are file cabinets that are sitting on it. Obviously, in an earthquake, all this stuff can slip off.
Right.
And then, so what we got here is one's a police radio, right? Do you know which one that is, or does it matter?
I think
one's fire.
This is Public Works.
Okay.
This one's going to be police or fire.
Okay.
And this one's says fire.
Okay.
On it.
And then if you
this one
is
it's plugged in.
Okay. Can you make an attempt?
Has no antenna.
Antenna's is disconnected. Now this has an antenna, like the black cabling we saw previously under the desk in the other location where it's not connected to ham, but there's the antenna again, and these are antennas go to the roof. Can you just try to flip the power on those, Ken, and see if there's any juice connected to them, or?
There's no power.
No power there. Can you try this one real quick here?
This one should have power. It does.
Or can you rotate to see?
Does not have power.
Okay. Can you hit the?
Oh, so.
Can you hit the power supply down there and see? So that's got power to it. Then maybe we'll try one more time here.
Yeah.
Can you try these again?
This one should have power. Yeah.
Okay.
The light's on.
Okay, can you rotate or hit the power on that thing? Doesn't appear, it's not, okay. Oh, there, finally.
Come on.
South Bay FD1.
Okay, so it came on, but it has no antenna hooked to it. So
okay, so there's no antenna, so.
You can't broadcast on it.
Yeah, assuming you could get it. Now, can you bring up the antenna cable? Yeah, go ahead and try to power those up and see if they power up.
No power on these.
Okay, no power. Ken, could you grab that cable these two are cabled to an antenna. Can you grab that antenna cable right here? Now, previously, as to your knowledge and what you kind of explained to me, is that
this one's
okay
sitting down there.
Right, but I mean, actually, this is for a bigger thing. So the antenna right here connection is right there. This is obviously I'm putting the wrong.
Not the right one.
No, I know it's not the wrong. I'm putting in the wrong end, and this is way too big. But I think, can you grab that one down there? You showed me previously. It was somewhat close to being plugged in, but wasn't there a certain cone or whatever that
this is not
was supposed to fit over?
Not the right connector for here.
Okay, but there's another antenna thing down there.
There's a bunch of
yeah, that's the thing. There's a bunch of cabling down here.
And power that's not plugged in that you don't know what they go to.
Right. Yeah. It's
So
kind of like a spaghetti.
If they're here, yes, you would assume that they need to be used for something.
Right.
And so here's a battery backup that has nothing plugged into it.
Yeah. So the one battery backup is powering this unit right here, but this unit unfortunately is not cabled. The problem is, Ken, I mean, you're somewhat more of an expert than me on this. If you first,
so here you go.
Okay.
So look, so here is the power cords.
Okay.
For the radios. So
okay.
You can
so
see.
I guess we could. I don't want to do it now, but I don't want to start like sparking things.
You're not going to spark anything. This is not hooked up to power.
Okay.
It was just sitting over in here.
Okay. So, yeah. But I mean, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is. First, me and you are having problems getting these things going, right? And then in a situation where you're not here and it's on the weekend and there's a disaster, and then, as you know, the city employees basically are scheduled to work Monday through Thursday, as I know it, right? What if when a disaster happens Friday through Sunday, like today is Sunday, and then people come up here and are unaware, they know how to operate these radios, but they don't know how to connect them. Would you say it would be relatively difficult to, get these things up and running at this moment?
It would be difficult. It would cause a little confusion and it would cause a slowdown.
Yeah.
The state of readiness at an EOC should be ready to go.
Right, at all times.
At all times, at a moment's notice.
Right.
I'm not saying something can't happen where you're going to, need to do an upgrade on something and you're going to go down for a period of time, but I've been up here, it's been about a year ago.
Okay.
And that radio wasn't working.
Okay. So, and then this is what I'm shooting with you right now. This is part 2 of video that I did 95 or 6 days ago. It was, as I remember, it was October 6th or something of 2018. And I didn't have you in the video too much, but I was walking around and I shot these radios and those ham radios over there, and they were all pretty much sitting as is. They were disconnected to power, disconnected to antennas, and then, for my mind, in what you're thinking, they're not fully operational, right, at all.
No,
right?
as a matter of fact.
Okay. Yeah, take a look at these. These are laptop computers here. Why don't you?
I just don't get in real close because I don't want to show passwords on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I won't. I'll turn away here. And maybe.
So there's no power on this device.
Okay, could you try that one there? That one appears to have a power cable connected to it. Maybe we'll get some
It has
power.
a power cord that's not plugged in.
Okay, see,
So let's see.
is there any power on that one?
No power on this
No
one.
power on
Doesn't
that?
fire.
Why don't we-
So,
well-
so here's another thing. So initially, when you need to get your EOC up and running, assuming the power is out, everything in here is going to be on battery until you can get the generator fired up.
Right, right.
It's not an automatic transfer switch, so there's a process. They have to
Right.
go out, fire the generator, shut down all the non-essential breakers on the electrical panel,
Right.
bring it online, then you could fire things up. If these were plugged in and ready to go, they would have battery power. You could at least
Right.
go for maybe 2 hours.
Right, sure. And you could
initially.
jury rig at least,
While you're working on everything else,
you
this
could get some
start to
power,
function.
other 110 power to it. And could you check there, it looks like there's 2 more
This
computers here.
one, these appear to be plugged in. So
All right,
I would, I see the lights on.
Oh, yeah.
I assume those are going to work fine.
Okay, all right, and then here we have some large format printers, which, can be used at whatever, to print maps, to identify. You could lay these tables out in a fashion where it was one large table, and if you wanted to have a printed map, that could generate a printed map. And then this is this is an electronic whiteboard,
Looks like
is
it's a
it?
new smartboard that they got.
Yeah,
For that,
smartboard.
I wanted to get one, but they were very pricey.
Yeah,
I was
obviously that could be hung and connected here, and so I guess one of the points we're trying to make, we're off with this video.
Here's another one here.
Yeah,
More computers that
go ahead, hit it. See if it's-
will not function.
Yeah, can you try?
And this one's plugged in, but it doesn't have power coming to it. This one's plugged in, doesn't have power coming to it. The phone works.
Oh, okay, Scott. Can you check this computer right there, that laptop? So that phone works. We got some other phones that don't work.
No power on this.
Okay, no power on that one. All right. But anyway, we'll just wrap up the video here. And I guess the case that we're trying to make is that the Emergency Operations Center really needs to be, I mean, when people walk in here and are familiar with equipment, all they really have to do is power things up.
Should be all they have to do. And the original intent of this room was to be a multi-purpose room. It wasn't just sitting here wasting space, waiting for a disaster. It was to be used for training, for whether it's anything public safety related, whether it was neighborhood watch or CERT, or anything that's public safety related could be done in this room.
Right.
And the way it's now, I don't think anybody would feel comfortable moving anything around because you don't want to, it's, if you don't
Right.
know, you don't want to touch anything and move anything
Sure.
around. And it would always be somebody that's trained or a city staffer would be up here, but
Right.
it's not conducive to that type of training anymore. Now it's
Right.
sitting almost like it's the facade of an EOC because
Yeah.
many things aren't working.
I mean, I can
The other
s-
thing that's very strange is that we've got like 6 printers in here. When you set up the EOC, we were looking for power savings.
Right.
Now we've got major printers up here. Which
Yeah, 2 large
maybe
format
maybe
printers.
they need it, and that's fine. But we've got a printer here. We've
Well,
got a big
actually,
printer
there's
back
2
there.
over there. There's a black Epson and
Yeah,
an
and
HP.
there's another one sitting back there.
Yeah,
A printer over here.
yeah,
We've got portable air conditioning in here. These are things that are going to soak up power. So hopefully in the plan, it says that you can't use it. And I would think there should be, a marker or something that says, if you're on generator power, you can't use this because they're going to soak
Right.
up too much power and bring everything to a halt.
yeah. I mean, I think the reality is, one of the things that I mentioned to you, Ken, is I did some minor, easy math calculations, and basically I multiplied 24 hours a day times 365 days a year, and then I divided that the 4 days a week that the city staff works, and that's about 10 hours a day. So when you divide the hours of the city staff and, by all the hours in a year, city staff, and I'm not talking about police and fire, but city staff, other city staff members and department heads and whatever, they are here about 20% of the time, hours in a year. So 80% of the hours are not here. So one of the things that has to happen, or first, in order to get this up and running and disaster happens, you're going to need competent people to hook things up, move.
Yes, and I would hope that would be in the plan.
Yeah.
However, as you've seen from some of these things, just phones and computers not working, that's a delay.
Yeah,
And
sure.
a delay that could cause other delays.
Right, right.
You just shouldn't. You
Yeah,
shouldn't have
and just as an example, you know, there's some nicely placed signs here, which is good. So right over here will be the public information officer sitting here, and there will be maybe desks slightly moved, but the management section over here, logistics, there would probably be a table under here, and then this is the operations center. So basically, what's going to happen, let's say that 20%, let's say we've got a disaster which is beneficial to us in the sense that the city is up and working. You know, it's a Monday and all the department heads are here, all the city workers. By the way, the city workers are sworn in as disaster service workers and whatever. So the department heads can come up here, and by the way, they're part of the emergency plan to be running things. So let's say the city hall's collapsed, but nobody's really that badly injured, but it's not operational. So you can come over here, a building with 1 foot thick concrete walls. It's got a backup generator. It's got also has electrical power from solar panels from the roof. And anyway, the department heads walk in that front door. The city manager walks in. The police chief walks in because everything's been damaged over at City Hall, and you can see what is presented to them. Even though they have a backup generator, the computers, the battery power is down on it, and it's going to take some time to like jury rig, get power to these things, plug them in. We have police and fire radios over here, which one has power, but the antenna's disconnected. The other two have the antenna connected, but there's no power. And so people got to connect that. And then it's quite possible too that the city workers, staff workers, when they come up here, they're not generally ham radio operator trained. But even if they were, or we had ham people come up here, now they're going to have to deal with connecting these radios to an antenna, bringing power to them, and then bringing them up. Right, and
Yes.
in a disaster,
staff would probably not do that because they
Yeah.
don't understand how these work to begin with.
Right,
So, like
right.
I said, if you hook up to the wrong one, or maybe somebody will try it.
Right,
If
and-
they hook up to
and
the
then-
wrong one and blow the radio, then the radio's out.
right. So I mean, I guess,
Amateur radio operators, we could function off of these.
yeah,
Had to
exactly,
for
yeah,
local
right,
things. So guys at home would chime in on our repeater as long as that was working, and that's on solar
Right.
and battery
Right.
Up on the hill. So we could work off of these. However, in here it's much more difficult to work
Sure.
on this.
And of course,
in
the
a
huge-
pinch, you're going to use whatever works.
Oh yeah. And the huge, those are great. And I have one of the small walk-arounds. But you know what's the big advantage of these? Well, as we mentioned before, when these are plugged in and powered up, and this is a power supply. That's not the radio. That's what supplies the power. And that can talk to, if you have a ham radio operator, to Washington D.C. And you can communicate in that fashion. And but unfortunately, they're powered down now, not connected, and whatever. And if you had to make an assessment, I'll tell you my assessment. But if you had to make an assessment, would you say that the Emergency Operations Center, as you see it now, is fully operational and capable as an EOC?
No communications.
Yeah, no communications. Yeah, it looks like it's a problem. Yeah, because obviously we're assuming the telephones can be down, the internet can be down, all power can be down, and our diesel generator could be up and running, and then we're powering things here, but we have no communications because of the hammer radio operations. And then let's say there's police and fire here, and they're used to using their radios. These radios are disconnected, and one of the cables needs parts, right? So that's a hassle, and that's where over right behind these whiteboards
They
is
would
where.
end up having to use their portable radio, which in here
Right.
is much more difficult to use because of the thickness of the wall.
Right. And the other situation too is in an emergency, 20% of the time city staff is going to be here in a year. 80% of the time they will not. Now, on that 80% of the time, if an emergency happens, the police and fire are here 24 hours a day. But in an emergency, the police department and fire department are going to be dealing with emergencies in the field. It's very unlikely they'll be up here. The police chief will probably be up here.
It would be a command person.
Yeah, command person or whatever, watch commander. Oh, obviously, if it's a day where the police chief is not working, it's the watch commander.